Welcome to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke, Alexandria, Minnesota. Today we're going to continue with taking a look at a county commissioner meeting here in Alexandria, Minnesota, and it relates to counties all over the state. Whether you're in the Fargo-Moorhead area, all over the nation, I should have said, Fargo-Moorhead area, Detroit Lakes, Kimball, Wadena, listening to this, Walker, Park Rapids, Perham. We're all in the same boat. We have typical government, and yet we're all frustrated with our government, both on the federal level, the state level, the county level, and the city level. And obviously nothing's perfect, and we commend our county commissioners and our city officials and all our elected officials for being public servants. Yet at the same time, I think in many areas we need to modernize government. And now with modern technology, I think we also need to use technology like Inform TV to see that citizens can actually watch some of these meetings. You don't have to drive to Alexandria, or you drive to Detroit Lakes or Fergus Falls to see a county commissioner meeting. We can do these online. But the challenging thing is, if you watched our previous program, and if you missed that, I encourage you to go to informtv.com. We'll have it posted there, and pass it on to your friends or your state legislators or your county commissioners in whatever county you're from. Because I think they will find it interesting, and your fellow citizens will find it interesting as far as, oh, we better not just listen to them. We better do or have somebody in our community, in our county, in our state, doing some follow-up on this to see if what we're reading in the local paper, that in the case here of Alexandria, and in fact much of the market we cover are papers covered from outstate businesses that have one function: profit and power. And but we, the citizens, what is our concern? We want to see what we're going to be talking about here. We started on a previous program about a snowplow purchase that suddenly the commissioners want to run it in the ground. And obviously, I was in business for 30-some years. I had some pieces of equipment I bought, and I ran them in the ground, just like many of you that have been in business, or your personal vehicle. And but we know there's some real success stories about running something in the ground, as part one of this series talked about. But there's also some real tragedies as far as not getting the job done. The commissioner in the previous segment that once again you can get online at informtv.com if you missed part one of this. And he was talking about, let's run it in the ground, let's save money. And my philosophy always has been, if you're an individual business, that's fine and dandy. But when it comes to purchasing a truck, I think actually snowplow trucks are more important than fire trucks. If you're going to keep an old fire truck, because if you have a fire, with today's modern system, there's other towns around you that immediately hear there's a fire call, and most of your neighboring towns will say, hey, they're going to need us, and they're on the way to their fire barn and backing up. But when it comes to a snowplow truck, when the blizzard hits or the icy roads hit, it's every man for himself, or every county, every city, every jurisdiction for themselves. So at 2 in the morning or 5 in the morning, when they hit the starter on this, they click the doors up, go out the door. I personally want that road clean. And because I've known of personal tragedies with families and friends where when the roads weren't clean, the kids that weren't good drivers, or grandma and grandpa, or the pregnant couple that decided to go out when they shouldn't have, got in big trouble because the roads weren't clean. So, and this is one area that I think we all benefit, whether you're rich or poor, black or white, wherever you are. So I think when it comes to snowplows, if you watch the previous segment, you'll find out that a sound rotation of keeping equipment up is good policy. And I'm basing that as a lifelong businessman. And ask your local banker that to finance his people, they like people that have a schedule of either trading your personal vehicles or business vehicles or community vehicles or church or school vehicles on a particular rotation. And that's a great way to keep from unnecessary spending on somebody's pet project. But at any rate, the other thing when we talked about the commissioner says, let's run it in the ground. I've always said, well, that's fine and dandy. They may be able to sell us some money. If you look at part one, I walked around, many of you say that truck looks plenty good. But they've had trouble with that truck. And it always hasn't been out on the road when they want it there. And my philosophy is if we're going to experiment here in Douglas County or your county on a project like this where you're going to start running equipment into the ground even though your taxes aren't going along. And if you listen to part one, the person that heads the Public Works Department says, we feel as employees this is a priority investment for us. And yet the commissioners turned him down. And what I'm getting at here is the commissioner that brought it up, let's run it in the ground, and because of the old philosophy of if Joe doesn't want to spend any money, I'm sure not going to say I spend any money, but if we're going to run something in the ground, let's put this Volvo truck as well as the older Ford that they got that I looked through the window up. They were closed by the time I got up there the other night, but I can see why they kept that Ford, which is now Sterling, they call them. Kept that and wanted to trade this Volvo, looking at them at both. And so I'm saying that commissioner, let's put the older trucks in his commissioner district and see how it works going 1, 2, 3 years without trading any trucks. Let's put it in this one commissioner's district who believes saving money is priority, even though I firmly believe, and most of the people here in Douglas County or in a county that's watching, when something is budgeted and the money is coming in, it's better to do a sound step-by-step process. But anyway, now we're going to get into more of the tape that the local people wanted me to do, and I encourage you people that are listening from Detroit Lakes or Wadena or Perham, if you don't have your county commissioner meeting being taped today and available online or in a community TV setting like I'm involved with, I believe you should. In Alexandria here we have the city on tape here that you can go on your cable outlet and get it. And I think it's good public policy. Now we're criticizing our commissioners a little bit here, and we'll let the people speak. I'm not going to harass them at any, but I want to go in and look at some of those buildings and do some additional things that even not just our local people find interesting, you people will find interesting too, because there's a number of projects going on in this area that affect us all, and it relates to Douglas County. And so we're just trying to give you a look at how the system works. We're going to continue with my questions now of the commissioners here in Douglas County.
There's a lot of private entities running correctional facilities, and the other thing I was getting at, it's my understanding that most of the cooks still work at that facility, are still employed, and they took a substantial pay cut as well as saving the county money. So I think this is where my question comes from.
I'm not aware that Aviance hired our former employees. I'm not aware of that.
I believe they hired 2 individuals, and one has already left. So I think there's one individual that used to work for us that works for Aviance.
Yep. Do you have any guidelines as far as what the pay of their cooks are getting compared to what they pay the county?
it's private business. Their bid was based on per cost per meal and the number of meals being served.
Has the county also looked into just providing frozen meals and let the people there microwave them and hand them out?
You have to have a diet set up by a dietitian, and that's the reason for it. And
I don't think that would fly. Under the state regulations, put us in a position where we have to follow certain rules. We can't just do those. So they govern us as much as anything.
Yeah, I don't know if our DOC here in Minnesota is as forgiving as probably what they have in Arizona.
Okay. And then what is the occupancy rate? We hear on various media outlets about how Todd County's jail has dropped dramatically. How are we doing as far as Douglas County, as far as occupancy and the cost factor?
It fluctuates quite a bit. We don't get, as far as I know, we don't get a daily.
From what knowledge I have of it, our occupancy rate has been fairly good.
she did mention that the occupancy this morning was 88.
Okay, that's what we're interested in. So, anything else you commissioners would want to tell the citizens of Douglas County or the area that you think needs to be worked on? I'm doing a sample recording of this, gentlemen, just to see if sound and stuff works without tapping into a sound facility here, and see if I can find any advertisers to fund my time here. Otherwise, I'm just
What channel will this be on?
Inform TV, we cover, and we're expanding market. Community channels we're on.
With that, I want to get into some of the items that were discussed here, and that affects all you cities that listen to Inform TV in relating to your incarceration of people, in relation to the unions that we deal with. You know, we hear about the Wisconsin thing where the governor just plain shut down the unions. And I think in his case there's true merit for it, and I believe in bargaining rights of people. Don't get me wrong. In fact, I think industry people in the state of Minnesota, outstate Minnesota, with some of the wages compared to what we hear our presidential candidates and that type of thing. We need some negotiation, and I commend our county officials. But I think in some of these instances, we're getting to the point where costs are getting out of control, and benefits compared to the person that are taxing it, we have to check. But now, obviously, when referred to our question, a 1.5% and a 1 and a 1. But we didn't get into what their wage rates were. I'm going to try to post them for you as well on informtv.com. But here's some of the discussions that I find interesting. When we talk about unions here, in Douglas County, and I think in your county, in fact, I challenge the non-Douglas County people to look into it themselves, we find that we have had unions here for quite some time, and yet, and we talk about closed sessions and all this negotiation time with our unions, but we tend to think that, well, we've got union employees here in Douglas County or your county, and well, there's a bargaining group. They all kind of get together and say, well, here's kind of the cost of living, or this is what we needed for education updates or whatever, and they kind of get together and talk things over as a group. But that's not what I found here in Douglas County. So I presume the same thing in your county, and you should check into. First of all, we also there was a new union, and my question's on there to the county administrator. What new union? I find out when I do my digging here for you folks that we're talking the people that issue driver's license, give you a fishing license, give you license plates. There's 6 people in that department. Now they're going to have their own bargaining unit. And I also found out we have this was rough figures, and because I had to apply for a data release commitment that takes 5 days, and that was just yesterday. So, but I did get some help looking at some numbers from last year, and that's what we're going to base this on. It appears we've got about 128 non-union employees, and we've got 199 union employees. But what really surprised me, we had the guys on part 1 with the snowplow walking around there. They're unionized, and once again, see that at informtv.com. There's 35 highway employees in Douglas County that my understanding is kind of a negotiating unit. Then we got ASME people that are social service people. There's 63 of them. And then we have Teamsters. And honestly, that shocked me. When they said Teamsters, I think, is Jimmy Hoffa here? People working? Who's the Jimmy Hoffa people in the county? And to my surprise, who is that? That's the law enforcement people. And if it's my understanding, that breaks down into record-keeping law enforcement people, supervising law enforcement people. That probably includes the new jail out here, as well as the deputies themselves. And they're Teamsters, which shocked me. But they've got 3 separate bargaining units. Then the county nurses, there's 22 of them, that they have a bargaining unit as well. So you can see some of the frustration our commissioners and county administrators, and some of the piles of paperwork that we're all paying for when it comes to unions in our counties. And are we expanding them now? It looks like we're expanding them in Douglas County. Are they expanding in your county? That will be a good homework assignment for you. The other thing I brought up about the jail here, because when they started the new jail and moved out of this building that I called a rat hole, that they're rebuilding now because of, as you listen to part 1, you'll see where I'm coming from there. We went away from cooks. They weren't smart enough to unionize themselves, evidently. And so, as you listen to the tape, what did they say? We saved substantial amounts of money. And they also said there was only maybe 2 that are still working there. Well, I checked with the jail here in town, and there is only 3 employees there. There's 1 full-time employee, which is the head cook, and 2 part-time employees. And they get some help from the inmates. At the other time, one of the commissioners said 88, and first, actually listening to that, the first time I thought 88% occupancy, that's pretty good. But what I found out by doing my due diligence, as they say, I find out that in Alexandria, this new prison that you people in Todd County that are listening to this, where yours went empty because ours was built, we have 156 beds, but we only have an operating capacity of 133. And the commissioner was referring to 88, and my thought was percent, but he probably was referring to 88 inmates. And I find out from a capacity standpoint, the new jail is about 65% full. That tends to be, we have 133 full-time, or operating permit from the state for 133 inmates, and we normally have, since summer, anywhere from 70 to 88 in that facility. So with 156 beds, that's basically only about half full. And one of the other things that I think was interesting when I talked to the jail people out there, that the state requires that operating, you have to have, we have 156 beds, but we are only allowed to fill 133. And I said, what's the problem with that? Well, the state says, what if there's a ruckus or some people don't get along with somebody, and so you have to have free beds to move people around. Well, why not just throw them in a couple cop cars and haul them to another county? That would be my thought, but that would probably make way too much sense. And I also checked, drunk driving has become a nightmare in our society. What is 1 in 7, 1 in 8 now have a DWI. And so I did a little checking of the 87 inmates that were in the jail today. 10 go out to work every day because they're DWI people, but in fact I've worked with a number of people that come in and work for a 12-hour shift with me, but then they had to get back to jail. And I find out of the 87, 10 were work people and related to DWI issues. There's another 10 that worked on the new facility that I call the rat hole, where they're putting in big windows and knocking out walls, and I want to get in there and film if I can get enough funds to do it, to show at least the Alexandria people what's going on there. And then there's another 8 that go out and public service jobs. But anyway, what I was getting at, when we look at and we hear things from our elected officials and employees, a lot of times we got to take them with a grain of salt. And the other thing I found on the prison deal, people today that with DWIs are all offenders once they're convicted, they're charged $35 per day. And so these DWI people that probably are already renting an apartment or have a mortgage, they end up paying double duty. And maybe I would think some of them should just put a collar on their leg and send them home, and rather than have all these jails. But that's part of public debate too. Something you can bring up at your caucuses this year. But I think this is a very interesting tape. I'll try to put all of it out, to be fair to our county commissioners, and I want to see if people have any interest in it. Obviously, it's no fun job to be a county commissioner, but they seem to fight to have it. And what, for the local people here, encouragement for you people in other cities, I firmly believe we shouldn't just be taping the proceeding with a CD like Alexandria is doing. I think we should definitely have a video tape of it, and I think we need somebody like myself from time to time at least coming in and questioning the commissioners, and then following up on both what the commissioners say and our public employees say, because we'll find out there's a lot of interesting things for public discussion at the coffee shop and bars and churches that don't always add up, but there's a lot of strong opinions about what my commissioner or my public employee said. The other thing that I want to talk about for just a second today is caucuses are coming up on February 7th. And I encourage you to get out and be active, whether you're Democrat, Republican, or Independence Party. Get out to these caucuses in the state of Minnesota. I don't know what you folks in North Dakota, how you handle it, but I think it's somewhat similar. Get out and be part of your government. bring up some of the things we've talked about here in Inform TV. Clearly, I think we're at a point in time when it's absolutely ridiculous to continue to send our farmers a direct subsidy payment when they're enjoying the best of times. That's one topic to bring up. I also think that with the shutdown of our government this past year here in the state of Minnesota, we should look at doing what the state of Nebraska has had for years, and that's just one body, one group of either the Democrats controlling the legislature or the Republicans controlling it. It's kind of foolish in this day and age to have two bodies, 200 and some people. In fact, we have people, in my view, that the good people amongst us that should be running won't, because there's too many people that are just not competent. It's more just, I want the title, and we could shrink it down where people, we would get a better group of people, it would cost us less, and we would address our issues one-on-one with sound people, and that's the way to get away from this infighting. All these extra people tend not to solve problems. They just tend to think that they've got to get a piece of the pie, even though they don't bring anything to the table. So with that, we're going to encourage you to go to informtv.com and look at part 1 of this, the county commissioner meeting, and pass it on to your friends, your county commissioner friends around this area. And we also want you to see if you can help me find some advertisers, and none of the advertisers that you hear that advertise on Inform TV have any input on what I say or do. They're just trying to be good citizens, to see that you have an alternative to what you're watching by traditional media. And I would encourage you to stop. We've been blessed by the Corral Restaurant in Nelson supporting us financially to put our message out, even though they take no position on anything we have, and we encourage you to go to the Corral. Fat Daddy's here, the bowling alley as well here in town, attached to Fat Daddy's. They've been fine to do some advertising. I can't bring you the message unless I can get some advertisers or some major contributions, because we're talking about items that need to be said. I'm going to not just have people in the background talking in the monitor. I'm going to start interviewing people, and we're going to address the issues that you people are rightfully concerned about, but we're not getting these issues addressed. And we want to thank you for listening to Inform TV. I'm Alan Repke.